We've been talking about this. We said your life moves in the direction of your strongest thoughts, right? And we kind of had this flow, all right? So where we talk about thoughts, beliefs, identities, and actions. Thoughts lead to beliefs. We agreed that the strongest thoughts we have, we agree with them. We believe our thoughts. And then those beliefs lead to identity. What you believe forms who you are. I mean, it makes sense, right? And then who you are leads to what you do, because identity leads to action. So you act in a manner that's consistent with who you are, which all comes from the way you think. So you can see it goes from top to bottom there. So our thoughts are like the atoms of the substance of our lives, okay? So there's a definite direction, a flow to how we are, what we think becomes the way we live our lives. So we've talked about thinking about the way you think and challenging you not to allow thoughts of shame or fear or victimhood to have free access into our minds. And today we want to talk about comparison. All right, so comparison is really pretty simple, all right? The comparison mindset is exactly as it sounds. You compare yourself to other people. You look at what other people have or do or what they're like, and then you compare it to what you have or you do or what you're like, and it makes you feel like, well, I don't measure up, or I feel inadequate, or I feel like things are unfair. The comparison mindset can be a very, very sneaky thing. It can worm its way into our peace of mind. So let's take a minute. I got a couple questions for you. I want to see if this is something you struggle with. I got 5 questions. All right, 5 questions for you to answer. Just answer in your own head, kind of keep track of where you're at here. Question number 1 is this. Do you ever feel like you don't measure up to the people you work with or go to school with? You have an interior monologue that says, there's something negative going on inside here. I'm not as smart as her, or, I don't work with people as well as he does, whatever it is. So ask yourself, see how you answer. Question number 2, do you find yourself saying, what about me? When someone gets congratulated for a success, does it automatically make you feel like a failure because you didn't have the same success? Or maybe you're thinking like, wait, when I did that, nobody congratulated me. I didn't get promoted. What about me? So if that's you, give yourself a mark. How about comparing yourself to others? Do you compare yourself with other people? Do you find yourself evaluating other people? What they wear, their attractiveness, wealth, intelligence. And does it often make you feel like you kind of have to compete with them? So give yourself a mark for that. Which leads to question number 4, very similar. Do you compare yourself on social media? Do you spend a lot of your free time scrutinizing other people's social media profiles or their posts? Do you look at the posts of people and you walk away feeling like you just don't add up? You look at all those models, the way they do their makeup, or, that prom dress. I wish I had that prom dress. Or you wish your wife was more fun like that online wife is. Or you wish your family got along better. And finally, question number 5. Okay, how about your plans? Have you set up life expectations based on other people's performance, which is a really tricky question. You got all your friends are getting married, they're in their mid-20s, and you're like, well, that's when I got to get married. So you set this timetable for yourself for career advancements, maybe a certain age by which you're going to make certain amounts of money or buy a house or have kids. And does it all make you feel like you got to live up to other people's standards and timelines? All right? So I'm no psychologist, but if you answered yes to, 2 or more of those, you're sunk, okay? Go home. It's not worth it. Just give up. I'm just kidding. Look, it might be worth looking into. If you answered 2 or more of any of those, you might be stuck in life because you're always comparing yourself to other people. Maybe it's time to get your mind right. And it's not hard. It's not some major thing. We can do this. So before we get too far into this, I do want to remind ourselves a little bit. Comparison on a healthy level can be a good thing. Okay, I remember back in college, my good friend Mark Zeisloff, he'd be working out and I'd be like, man, he looks good. He looks healthy. Like, I want to be healthy. Or another really good friend of mine, Scott Trauger, a long time ago, we talked about saving for retirement. And then when he told me how much he was saving for retirement, I was like, okay, I'm behind. I got to catch up here. Jason Mitchell comes out here and he's talking about like inviting people, to church. And I'm like, oh man, I got to get on that. I got to ask people. So in a healthy amount, it shapes our lives. Comparison can be a good thing. But that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about unhealthy comparison. I'm talking about the kind that makes you feel worse about yourself. And really, it shows itself in a few different ways. And probably one of the most easy ways that it comes about is when, people are comparing themselves to others, it makes them feel depressed, like they can't compete. So they just withdraw, they give up. And so that's kind of easy to see. But then there's a little bit more insidious forms of what comparison and the comparison mindset can show up as. And I think a lot of times it comes up in the perfectionist person. So everyone thinks, you just want to be the best. But that secretly comes from a need deep inside of you just to feel adequate around other people. Deep down, you work harder than everyone else because you feel less worthy. And see, that's what I'm talking about. That's what needs to change. Don't sit there and smile and be like, yeah, I'm a perfectionist, when it means you're running on a hamster wheel of performance. You're always anxious about what other people are thinking. That's not healthy, okay? That's got to change. You got to get your mind right. And I think one of the last ways that it really shows up is sometimes we feel the pressure of comparison with other people, and inwardly we're in this competitive phase, but outwardly we kind of mask it. We appear to be loving and caring, but inside we're jealous and angry. And we've seen this like in Cain and Abel. Cain's jealous about what his brother gets, so he internalizes it and kills his brother. Man, you got to read the Bible. The Bible is filled with comparison examples. Rachel and Leah. If you're not reading the Bible, you're missing out, okay? Go to lcbcchurch.com. We got all kinds of reading plans there. Rachel and Leah in the Old Testament, they were two sisters who married the same dude, okay? Like, that's messed up. So you got to read your Bible and kind of catch up on this. One can have children, one can't. One's loved, the other's not. And so there's a lot of nastiness that goes on there. That's a comparison thing, okay? And then there's Saul and David. King Saul can't hack it that one of his soldiers is getting more attention for being a better soldier, and the comparison literally drives him crazy. So a lot of examples out there of unhealthy comparison and what it does to us. And it repeats this inner narrative that we don't add up to others because what we have is different, what they have is better, what they have is more. All right, so kind of just summarizing some stuff here. This is where we really got to get into it, because this is going to be a difficult thing to accept for a lot of people. I think on the surface we think, oh, okay, yeah, that's true. But to really understand what it means, it's going to be difficult, because the fact that other people, when you compare yourself with other people, there's a sense of like hurt almost, because not everyone gets the same things. And I know that sounds very basic, but it's an uncomfortable truth that we are all loved equally by God. But we all don't have the same circumstances. We don't all get the same things. Paul the Apostle, early follower of Jesus, wrote letters to a bunch of different churches. Romans chapter 2, this is what he writes. Just taking a real quick snippet here. He says, God does not show favoritism. He goes on to build on that idea. There's a whole lot more behind that. But I just want to underline the fact that God loves us all equally. Same love, but not everyone gets the same things. Same love, but unequal outcomes. I mean, think about that. On the surface, again, we're kind of like, okay, well, yeah, I see that. But when you really think about that, you might come to this conclusion. That's not fair. And you're right. And it's almost like we have to park on this. It's not fair. Think about that for a minute. When you struggle with comparison, this becomes a very difficult subject and a very difficult idea to internalize. In fact, the more that you get angry or anxious or depressed or upset about what other people have, the stronger you feel that things not being fair is not fair. But it doesn't change the fact that things are not fair. Life is not fair. And so you might say, so why does God allow things to be unfair? And see, this is important to remember. It's almost like Theology 101, because God has given us free will from the start. Sin entered the picture, and we have this whole world that's under the curse of sin. So there's a short circuit to the system, okay? It's not the way it was supposed to be. It's not the way that God designed it. So the issue of fairness now becomes complicated. Do you see what I mean? We brought this on ourselves. Because of sin, we have a mix of good and bad things in our lives. We got good cards and we've got bad cards. Now, that's not God's desire. It's not his intention from the start. It's the result of sin. And that's why things aren't fair. Some people have more good cards. Some people have more bad cards. Now, the saving grace to it is this. And what I can understand about what the Bible says about how God works in a system where everything's not perfect, God allows us to be shaped by both the good and the bad. See, God's grace is strong enough that even bad cards can be blessings too. So again, Paul is writing to this church in Rome, and the way he lays it out here, I think is really compelling. It's Romans chapter 8, verses 28 and 29. You don't have to turn there. I'll show you real quick. He summarizes this whole idea of that you've got good cards and bad cards, and God can use both good and bad to shape for the good. So check this out. And we know that God causes everything to work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to his purpose for them. For God knew his people in advance, and he chose them to become like his son, so that his son would be firstborn among many brothers and sisters. So look, Paul's saying that God works for our good in the midst of things that do not seem so good. And look, this was coming from a guy who got a lot of bad cards dealt to him. Paul was no millionaire preacher who, had all the fancy shoes and all that sort of thing. He was routinely chased out of town. He was whipped. He was beaten. He was spit on. He pretty much ruined his life to follow Jesus. So he had a lot of bad cards. But those things were shaping the man he became. Look in verse 28. It's really interesting. God knows your situation, both the good and the bad. Look at that. And we know that God causes everything, good and the bad. He causes everything to work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to his purpose for them. Man, that's hopeful. That gives us okay, well, even though I have bad cards, God can use that. And look at verse 29. What does he use it for? For God knew his people in advance, and he chose them, look at this, he chose them to become like his son. Now, park on that for a minute. That's the point. It's for us to become like Jesus. The point is becoming more and more like Jesus. And if you recall, Jesus had some bad cards that he was dealt as well. See, God's goal isn't fairness and equal outcomes. God's goal is becoming more and more like Jesus. So, listen, this is what I want you to really get today. This is a big, big deal. It's not about the cards. It's about how you play them. So I want to give you an example. Okay, we're going to walk through this. Mark chapter 5. Go ahead and open up to Mark chapter 5. You can use your phones or the Bibles on page 764. Really interesting comparison what's going on here. As you're turning there, I want to give you kind of like a background on how all this takes place. In the first few chapters of the book of Mark, Jesus is walking around the Sea of Galilee, and he's kind of like rounding the corner. He's on his way to Capernaum. And he's gathering up disciples. These disciples, these are like the privileged few who get to see all of this. Jesus is healing and he's teaching. And even in chapter 4, he's riding in a boat in the middle of the night and a huge storm breaks out. And Jesus is asleep in the back of the boat. And they wake him up. They're like, man, don't you even care that we're drowning? Jesus gets up and goes, be still. And I hate doing that. I don't know what he said. It says he says, peace be still, but like how he said it, was he like, shh, or was he like, bah? I don't know what. But he did something, and everything just went, whew. It was like completely calm. Even his disciples were like, did you see that? Who is this guy? Even the wind and the waves obey him. These guys are having the most amazing time getting to know Jesus, seeing all that they're able to see. Don't you wish you could be in that boat? Don't you wish you could get to see what they saw? How amazing would it be to be a disciple, to just ride along in the boat and see this guy speak to the sky? And it changes. Better than CGI, He's just like, shh. That would be freaky. I'd be like, oh my gosh, I don't want to ever leave this place. So, you got that, right? Now, compare that with the person they run into on the other side of the Sea of Galilee. Look at the cards each one of these guys is dealt. Okay, look at Mark chapter 5, verse 1. You can read along while I'm kind of summarizing it for you, or you can just listen to me, whatever you want to do. Some people can do that, some people can't. But basically, I just want to summarize what's going on here. They land on the opposite shore. In the middle of the night, there's this guy who is demon-possessed, and he comes running up to them. Okay, and this is scary. It says this guy was night and day screaming among the tombs and in the mountains, and he was gashing himself with stones. He was cutting himself. And his strength was so strong that people couldn't even bind him anymore, not even with chains. And look, this is not someone you just mess with. Think about this guy's life. His clothes are all torn. He's got scars from cutting himself all over the place. His voice is probably shredded. He probably sounds like demonic. He's like, ah! His family has long since abandoned him. People were putting him in chains. I mean, this is hardly a life at all. I mean, this guy has been dealt a bad hand. He's got some bad cards. So this demon-possessed guy comes running up to Jesus, says he bows before him, and he gets into it with him. And then there's Jesus. And the way that the words are used here, Jesus is saying this repeatedly. He's like, come out of him, come out of him, come out of him. And as a disciple, I'd be like, wait, he's doing this over and over again. Usually it's like once and it's out. It's like he's saying it over and over again. Something's going on here. Come out of him, come out of him. And then he switches up tactics and he goes, tell me your name, which is a total power grab. You know, I mean, it's total like, I'm in charge of you. And this demon, and remember, this is the middle of the night, it's around the tombs, it's a freaky place. And this demon's just like, I am legion, for we are many. You know, there's like demon voice coming out of him, right? And when he says he's demon, when he says he's legion, that word legion, I know some of you are laughing about the demon voice, but you know you would totally be like, you know, if you were there. Because I'm sure it wasn't like, oh, I'm legion, for we are many. And we just hang out on the side. No, it was like, ah! It was intense. It was a showdown. And when he says legion, it's like 600 troops were a legion. So there's a lot going on here, okay? So they beg Jesus, hey, let us enter into that herd of swine on the hill. I mean, there's a herd of swine nearby. This is great. It's very convenient. So these demons, Jesus is, you know, he's talking to Jesus, and Jesus looks at them, and the demons are all pleading, like, let us enter the swine. And Jesus goes, I give you permission. And I don't know what that looks like or what that sounds like, but all of a sudden these like demons come out of this guy, and they run into a herd of swine that are on the nearby hill. And then they rush down the mountain. Maybe I'm too visual, but like I'm thinking middle of the night, among the tombs, freaky person, demon voice. Now you got 2,000 pigs stampeding down a hill into the water. What did that sound like? You know, just like all down the hill. And then they're in the water, and pigs don't swim. So in the water, it's like, they're all like dying in the water. I would be like, oh my gosh, what's going on here? Happy place, happy place. You know, like this is like freaky, okay? So you have this guy, all of a sudden he's been set free from all these demons, and he was like dead. He was dead. And now he's alive. That guy's got a story to tell. I mean, I'm telling this story 2,000 years later. And then the crowd arrives, and the most annoying part of this story is the crowd. They get scared. You know, they want Jesus to leave. Look at verses 15 and 17. It's so annoying to me. You know, the pig farmers are not happy. They just lost a lot of bacon. And so they're like, hey, Jesus, you got to leave, okay? I never understand this. This is the most annoying part of the whole story. You've seen the most amazing, indescribable thing, like demon possession, pigs, like all that, right? Why wouldn't you want to see more of that, you know? I would want them to stay around a little bit longer. Hey, Jesus, can you resurrect pigs? You know, can you make them fly out of the water? We could still use them in the market. Now listen, I know we're having some fun with this, but the part that I really want us to see comes next. As they're leaving, I mean, this is a very, very full time. It's a huge, huge story that this guy's gonna be able to tell for generations, right? As they're leaving, this guy begs to go with Jesus. Look at verse 18. Chapter 5, verse 18. As Jesus was getting into the boat, the man who had been demon-possessed begged to go with him. The word's like implored, like on his knees, please. But Jesus said no. Go home to your family. Man, what? Go home to your family? Tell them everything the Lord has done for you and how merciful has been. What family? Like, wait, what am I going to tell them? I don't even know what happened. What's his story? You know, we think, well, he told the gospel. No, he didn't. What did he have to tell them? I don't know. I was insane for years, and this guy made me right. You got to see him, you know? Jesus says, I got something different for you. That's hard. That's really hard. I mean, can you imagine Simon, James, John, Andrew, all getting in the boat? They're about to continue on this journey. They're going to see the feeding of the 5,000. They're going to see Lazarus brought back from the dead. They're going to see the Pharisees get schooled. They're going to see the resurrection. They get to get in the boat and see all of that. And this man who has suffered so much is on his knees on the beach watching this boat disappear. Are you thinking it yet? Has it crossed your mind? That's not fair. See, that's the torture of comparison. This man has just been set free of demons. He's come back to life. And within a span of just a few minutes, we start questioning whether it's fair that he can't go with others. Do you see how powerful the comparison mindset is? In a blink, we've ignored the life-changing card that he just picked up and become jealous of the cards in someone else's hand. So I don't know if the former demoniac is unhappy at this moment. Maybe he's super grateful he's just been set free. But I know a lot of people who have been blessed by God in enormous ways, and yet they can only see what other people have in their hand. See, that's the heart of comparison. It's the loss of value of something special when you compare it with what somebody else has. It's interesting. Like, to me, it's fascinating. It's like life is this card game. It's like playing Uno. You know, I love Uno. You like Uno? You can't play Uno and like have it ruin your day. Like, if you lose at Uno, who cares? I've never seen somebody be like, I lost at Uno. So annoying. I've never once had to console somebody having lost at Uno. And you know, in Uno, you get some good cards, you get some bad cards. You know, sometimes you have a great hand, sometimes you don't. The only way to play the game, though, is to play the cards you've been dealt. Let that sink in. You can't play someone else's cards. And there's always going to be someone with a better hand. But you have to play the card you've been dealt. See, I think there's something deep here that's going to be easy to miss. The comparison mindset can make you feel like you don't measure up to what other people have. And when you compare yourself to other people, you feel like you were dealt with unfairly. But I want to share with you some wisdom. And it's going to be easy to miss. You're going to be confused by this. Some of you are going to be like, I don't really get, this seems very simple. And you might miss the nuance in it. Because it's not about the cards you have. It's about how you play them. See, the comparison mindset makes us think we were shortchanged or the game's rigged. And this puts us at a disadvantage, so we got to cheat. We got to steal. We got to hide a card away somewhere. But wisdom is being grateful for the cards you have, the good and the bad, and playing them wisely. It's not what you have, it's what you do with what you have. So you learn to be grateful for the cards you've been given, because then you can learn how to play them in life. So I want to give you a couple practical suggestions for how to be grateful, because it's easy to stand up here and just say, be grateful, have a nice lunch, But we need some handles. Like, how do we do this? Like, how do we be grateful? First thing is this, okay? And I think this is so interesting. Be grateful for the cards you're dealt. Don't fall for the bluff, okay? There's a lot of bluffing going on out there. That Facebook family that keeps going to Disney or Hawaii, come on. I know, it's like, well, I wish we had kids like that. They were all well-behaved. I mean, look, listen to me. You already know this. Instagram is a giant bluff. Comparing your Monday morning to their highlight reel, it's a lie, okay? It really is. You have no idea what's really going on behind closed doors. That fun wife, she only shows her best face in public, okay? That super successful husband, he's full of himself, okay? Don't fall for it. And I know, I'm saying this kind of tongue-in-cheek, but if you were to switch the cards, you would find yourself with a whole different set of problems and issues that they hide. Be grateful for what you have. What's right in front of you. Second thing is this, be grateful for the cards you're dealt, because you've got to learn to play the cards you have, okay? You can't play someone else's cards. As the former demoniac watched them get in the boat, I mean, he had no idea that every person in that boat would suffer and die. Think about that. One would kill himself. One would be crucified upside down. According to tradition, one would be crucified in Greece. One was probably killed in India. One was beaten to death by the Romans. One was stabbed in Africa. One was beheaded. One was killed in Iran. One was burned to death. One was impaled by a sword. One was exiled on an island and grew into an old man and died. That was their play. Those were their cards. He had different cards. So what cards do you have? And how can you learn to play the ones you have? See, the Bible says this guy went to work on what Jesus said, and he went and told people about it. Mark 5, verse 20 says, so the man started off to visit the 10 towns of that region and began to proclaim the great things Jesus had done for him. And everyone was amazed at what he told them. That guy, the former demoniac, went and told everyone about what Jesus did. He played his cards. Where else do you think all those crowds were coming from when Jesus would land on the shore? Someone had to go and tell people what was coming. See, I imagine there were a handful of times that Jesus landed among the Gerasenes, his hometown. I'm sure he landed probably 6 or 7 times for the rest of his ministry. He probably came back to this guy, the former demoniac's hometown, and thousands of people went out to go meet him. And do you know why? Because he told them about what happened. And I imagine, and I don't know for sure, but I imagine at some point that Jesus would step off that boat and would see the throngs of people, and he would purposely make his way to the former demoniac, and he would just hold his arms and be like, well done. Thank you for continuing to tell these people about me. Look, you can't play someone else's cards. You can only play your own. And, why would you want to play anyone else's cards? God has a plan for you right in front of you. Get on it. Be grateful for the influence you have right where you already are. So, we hit a couple things here. A third thing is this. Be grateful for the cards that you're dealt, because the hardest cards to play are often the ones that bring about the greatest blessing. And so we got to talk about this word blessing, okay? Because there's a lot about this word blessing that's just incorrect. We throw that word around like it's magic powder, like it's lucky chance, like blessings on you. Blessings, everyone. Pray that everything works out well. Read the Sermon on the Mount sometime. Read Matthew chapter 5. Blessed are the poor in spirit. Blessed are the mourners. Blessed are those who hunger for righteousness. Last time I checked, Jesus doesn't say, blessed are those with the giant office. Blessed are those who make varsity every time with little or no effort. Blessed are you who give birth and 2 months later have 6-pack abs. Come on. No, read it. Blessed are those who experience difficulty. Probably the biggest source of comparison comes from when we encounter difficulty and we give up. We start looking what other people have and we think, well, that's not fair. Sometimes blessing is when you get skipped. Sometimes blessing is when you draw 2. Sometimes blessing is when life goes in reverse. Sometimes blessing is having less. I can speak to this from experience. I grew up in an amazing home with love, warmth, care. My dad was an art teacher. My mom stayed home with us. We didn't have a whole lot of money for any of the extras. And this was especially hard because I lived in an area outside of Philly that was very, very wealthy. I mean, like, people drove fancy cars. They went on ski trips. They had all the extras. And I was going to school in hand-me-downs and my mom's, haircut that was, anti-gravity, I look at these pictures of elementary school. I'm like, did you not know a straight line? What? And she would always say, you never sat still. And I'm like, well, in my sleep, sedate me, do something. Just get that line straight. What? They have bowls, So it was hard at times. And I didn't always count it as a blessing. See, everyone else's mom always came to pick up their kids in Volvos and BMWs. My friends were like, oh, there comes John's mom again in the ghetto cruiser. And they were right. I mean, it was bad looking. So everyone had all the latest Nikes and Adidas. And, back then, they used to call no-name shoes Bobos. And so, remember that? So they'd be like, oh, John, what are those Bobos? And it wasn't cool to wear Bobos back then. Now you can wear Bobos and everybody's like, yeah, whatever. But like back then it wasn't cool to wear them. And so there was a lot of that, a lot of Bobo wearing back then. So as a family, we didn't have a lot of the extras. And I got to tell you what a blessing it was to not have. Some of you parents out there, just realize it's okay that they don't have a lot, and especially not too much too soon. I didn't realize at the time what a blessing that was, and I still feel it. I still feel blessed today when we go out to eat. It's special. I still get that spark of like, oh, we're going out. And I hate that we live in an age when everything you get to order and bring home. I'm like, I don't want to go home, I want to go out. I want to feel that excitement of like, wow, we're going out, this is special. When my kids were younger, you got Tyler, Aiden, little Kylie, like, hey guys, we're out tonight and we get to have soda. Get to order sodas and see Kylie's eyes go like, oh, I'm having root beer, like, yeah. Do you know what it's like to be a grown man and have that little spark still inside of you? I still got that spark inside of me. I'm like, oh, I get soda. First time I went skiing was in my mid-20s. That stuff is expensive, by the way. But everybody else had done it like 50 times. They're all over it. I'm like, I'm skiing. Like I get to work with young adults when we go on game nights or special trips or conferences. I still get excited. I still got that spark. It's still new to me to be able to do and enjoy stuff. And now my mom would probably be like, John, please tell them we did fun things. Of course we did fun things. We just didn't have all the extras. And guess what? I think that was a blessing of not having too much too soon. Sometimes the hardest cards to play are the ones we need to value the most because it's how we play them. So I got to do this real quick. I got to make sure that we're being very respectful here because some of us are dealing with cards that got a much different weight to them. And I want to be very careful that you don't hear me saying that if you're struggling with the death of a loved one or like a life-changing diagnosis or, you've been trying to have kids and everybody else is starting families, I don't want you to hear me saying you just got to be grateful. You just got to be grateful for the cards you dealt. You got to suck it up. I'm not saying that, okay? Much respect. It wouldn't even make you feel better, I'm not saying that at all. What I am saying is that it's still true, but it's just going to take time. You still do have to play the card, but give yourself time. It's going to take time, and that's okay. And it's okay to feel that, to feel angry, to feel hurt. But just know in time, you got to play that card, and it can be a blessing. Alexander Solzhenitsyn, ran into a quote from him recently, which is really good. Alexander Solzhenitsyn became one of the greatest writers and thinkers and speakers of the 20th century. As a young man, he was in Russia. He was sent to the Gulag. He was sent to a forced labor camp where he was beaten, he was interrogated, he was forced to work, all because he criticized the leader of Russia in a letter to a friend. I mean, if anyone at any time had the right to compare himself with others, it was Alexander Solzhenitsyn. Here was a guy, he was actually in the military fighting the Nazis. So he was on like the front lines, the Russian front lines, fighting the Nazis. He wrote a letter to a friend critiquing Joseph Stalin, and a government agent read his letter and they arrested him, put him in a holding cell, and he was going to spend almost the next 10 years in the Gulag, okay, forced labor camp. While he's in that holding cell, he hears fireworks going off. You know what that was? That was Germany surrendering. He was only 2 weeks away from achieving his goal, celebrating with his fellow comrades, and he couldn't because someone read his letter. And everybody was talking about this. Everybody was saying this. Why did he get singled out for this? So if anyone had the right to give up, it was him. And it took time. But that devastating card he was dealt changed his life. It took time, but then he actually began to follow Jesus in the Gulag. He wrote about his experiences and went on to write several books, even won the Nobel Peace Prize for Literature in 1970. Listen, he lost years of his life. He lost years with his friends and family. He lost his money. He lost his pride. This was no blessing by earthly measure, but it was how he played the cards he was dealt. And it took time. but he was able to be grateful for what he went through. Later in life, he went back to the prison that he spent almost a decade at, and he wrote this. This is actually a combination of two quotes. He says, "Bless you, prison. Bless you for being in my life. For there, lying upon rotting prison straw, I came to realize that the object of life is not prosperity, as we were made to believe, but the maturing of the human soul." Some things you can only learn from being dealt a card that nobody wants to be dealt. Sometimes the hardest cards bring about the greatest blessing. Let me take you to one final place. Would you flip over to John chapter 21? It's on page 829. John chapter 21. You know, a lot of us wrestle with comparing our lives to other people, and some of us have been dealt a devastating blow in the card we've received. But there's only one dealer, and it's not you. And he's good. And in the end, we can't play someone else's card. So I want you to open up to John 21. We're going to be looking at verse 22. Jesus is talking with Peter. It's the last few moments that Jesus has with Peter before he ascends into heaven. And Jesus is telling Peter that he's going to deal with some difficult cards in the future. He's indicating that Peter will be crucified in his life. And that's a tough card to play. That's a tough card to receive and know it's going to be years in the future. You know, like, is today the day? Is today the day? So it is a lot to hear. So Peter, he kind of changes the subject, looks behind him, he sees John following him, and he says, well, what about him? Hey, what's he going to do? What are his cards? And look what he says in verse 22. What's that to you? As for you, follow me. How direct, how curt, how to the point. But I love this. Hey, look, stop trying to look at someone else's cards. You can't play them anyhow. As for you, follow me. Play the card you're dealt. So look, in front of you, on the side of you, wherever it is, there should be an Uno card, pulled from random. And there's some pens around you. Yeah, go ahead and grab those. Basically, what I want us to look at is say, look, you've been given a hand that you've been dealt. And the thing that's causing you most to compare yourself with others, I want you to think about that. Have you been struggling lately with what other people have, and it's causing you to compare what you have to others? Is it possible that this has been dealt to you, and it's not God's will to punish you? Is it possible that this is what happened? It was just what life brought you. The mess of sin that we're all in just brought about bad things. But God is allowing it to shape you. Is it possible? Is it possible that God can bless you with it if you just play that card? How can you see the blessing in playing the cards you've been dealt? So I want you to take this Uno card, right? And grab a pen. And if you're watching online, grab a card, something at home to write on, whatever you need. And, you know, hopefully the pens all work. If they're actually able to write on the card. If they don't, just borrow from the lady that has that big purse next to you. They've got like 50 pens in there. But we're going to spend a few minutes just talking to God, okay? So this should be an encouraging time. I don't want you to feel like, you know, like, I don't know. I want you to feel like, yeah, I can do this. You know, this is something we can do together. So let's talk to God about it, you know? And you might be totally fine with talking to God, or you might be like, wait, what's going on here is a little weird. It's okay, nothing weird. We're just giving you time to process what we talked about. And I want you to include God in all of this. You might be like, I don't know what I think about God. That's okay, just talk to him. Just take a few minutes. Take a deep breath. Think about what we've been talking about. And maybe this is something that when, you know, you talk to God about it, you can include him in and say, what do you think? You know, maybe you've been talking to God for a long time about all this. And you've been saying, man, this just isn't fair. And, you know, what other people have just makes you feel inadequate. And you struggle. And maybe it's just a very surfacey thing. You just struggle with what other people have. You know, people at school, people at work, people, other families. Maybe it's that friend with the perfect hair. You know, they get all the attention. You just wish they had their attractiveness. Or maybe it's something more internal. You know, it's at work. Everybody else is on that like inside group. They all get the promotions. They all get those private conversations, those special meetings, and you get locked out of them. You wish you had more. You wish you were able to be dealt with and dealt in on more. Or you feel like life is passing you by because you're taking care of the kids and everyone else has those like important jobs and, you know, everybody else just looks so in control and organized and beautiful and you feel like you just don't measure up. So let's take care of this. Let's take care of this now. Take a few minutes. Put your finger on it. What's the card that you've been dealt that makes you struggle with comparison? That's all I want you to do right now. We're going to bring in some music. I just want you to bring to mind the card that you've been dealt and how it brings up that feeling of comparison. I want you to write it down. I'll give you a few minutes to do that right now. Now I want you to look at this card. How can you be grateful for this card that you've been dealt? How can you see that there's a bigger story, that God knows this is hard, but he's still the dealer and he's still good? How can you see that there's a lot of bluffing going on out there, and no one has it perfect? How can you see that there is a blessing in it? Ask God to show you how this will be a blessing if you play the card right. So I want you to take a few more minutes. I want you to talk to God. I want you to ask him, show me how this can be a blessing. You know what, as you're doing that, you might receive some insight. You know, sometimes it says when we talk to God, his Holy Spirit convicts us, leads us into truth. You know, when that happens, write it down. Write it on this card. Where do you feel like God is nudging you? And again, this should be an uplifting time. You can do this. And as you do, just remember what Jesus said. What's that to you? As for you, follow me. Go ahead and just talk to God now and ask him to kind of nudge you, speak to you. How can this be a blessing? So, Father, I pray for every person listening to this now. Lord, we've had too long where we've wrestled with thoughts of comparison, of just not feeling like we're enough. And we're not enough, Lord. We need you. We thought your love, your care, and your provision, we'd be aimless in life. So I pray that as we leave here today, would you give us a sense of having heard from you and your word? I pray that you would help us to see the blessing in the cards that we have, both the good and the bad. Help us to see the wisdom in how to play them and not compare them with others. And mostly, God, today, may we leave here with a renewed sense of purpose in what we have been given, the cards we actually have. Show us how we can use the blessing of these cards to be a blessing to others in our lives. And we pray this in Jesus' strong name. Amen. I want to thank you. I want to thank you for just taking a few minutes. It kind of feels good, doesn't it? Just taking some time to slow down, listen to God, talk to God. And look, I pray that as you leave here, that you feel encouraged, you feel invigorated to live this out. I want you to take this card, I want you to put it in your pocket, I want you to put it in your purse, I want you to put it in your wallet, tuck it in your car visor, put it in your mirror, and every time those thoughts creep in of wanting to compare your card with somebody else, that you would see the blessing that's been given you if you just play it out, if you just play this card. But sometimes it helps to just talk to people. We've got lots of people that want to talk and pray with you. If you need to talk to somebody, come down to the left here. Every one of our rooms, we've got on the left-hand side people that want to talk and pray with you. If you're online, you can leave a prayer request in the app or the website anytime. And don't forget, we're not done, okay? Come back here next week as we finish up our series, Get Your Mind Right. And why not bring a friend? And look, it's Mother's Day, so bring your mom, okay? And if you're a mom, bring your kids, guilt them into being here, okay? Use that guilt, that mom guilt. It's really powerful. Hey, so listen, until next week, may the Lord bless and protect you. May the Lord smile on you and be gracious to you. May the Lord show you his favor and give you his peace. We'll see you next week.